Okay, my name is Helene Chanel, and I will be interviewing today. And the first question I will ask of the interviewee is, what is your name?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Mamoudou Jabi. The Jabi is spelled in two different ways. In the French zone of Africa, it's spelled Jabie. In the English areas, in the French area, it's called Diaby. In the English area, it's spelled Jabbii. My name is Jabi Mamoudou.
And how are you related to our family?
Oh, I'm a family friend. I'm here today in Georgia, and we hanging out. I've been friends for a while now with his family.
Okay, okay. Who is your mother and your father?
My mother, both of them are deceased. My mother was called Sitan Kaba, Sitankaba. My father is Amadou Jabi, Amadou. Like I said again, the English would be Jabbii, and the French would be Diaby.
Okay, the first question I will ask Mr. Jabi is, what did the ancestors teach you about the history of or about the word love?
Love can be expressed in so many ways. First of all, we are from the Mandingo tribe. And if you know, the Mandingo tribe is one of the most important tribes in Africa because the first three universities in Africa was University of Egypt, Timbuktu, which is the Mandingo University, and Morocco. So the Mandingo people express their love in so many ways because, first of all, the dominant religion in the Mandingo tribe is Islam today, but before Islam, there were cultures in Africa that emphasized love. Love could be expressed between husband and wife, it could be expressed between neighbors, it could be expressed between nations. So love was always in the African culture and tradition before the arrival of the Arabs or the Europeans. But today, love has taken different meanings because of religious infiltration. But love is like atonement with your fellow human beings, accepting your fellow human beings as you accept yourself. In our concept, there's something called it takes a village, meaning everybody in the village are finding ways to come together in concept and in all facets of life. So love is something that is very, very huge in the African culture, especially the Mandingo culture.
So I will pose another question, Mr. Jabi,
Yeah.
my friend. What did the ancestors or transition loved one teach you about respect?
Respect is something that's very, very important in our culture, especially the Mandingo culture. And respect is seen as something that will hold society together in peace and in tranquility. This is inculcated in the mind of the Africans at a very, very young age. The African culture is run by that, and it holds the African culture together. Now, because of the infiltration of the European culture, there is a crisis in that area today. But in Africa, everybody's in society have to function together in making sure this particular area of human phenomena is implemented. In other words, your child is everybody's children. Your family as far as respect is concerned, it's a responsibility of the whole village. People, this is promoted in every facet in life in Africa. So it's very important. Respect is something that's very important in African culture. They hold marriages together, they hold the family together, they hold the village together.
What did your ancestors or or transition loved one teach you about war and security? And I'm talking in relation to the Constitution of the United States of America in 1789, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, guns, shall not be infringed. What did your ancestors teach you about that particular subject matter?
Well, I cannot answer this question to base it on the United States Constitution, but I will base it on the African philosophy. In Africa, security is something that's very vital. In fact, back in the day, they used to train young men how to wrestle, how to fight, because it's very important for the Africans to make sure that their families are secure and safe from interventions. Most people misconstrue the fact how the Europeans came to Africa and started slavery and slave trade. Most people thought it was that easy. The Africans fought vigorously to make sure that there was no foreign infiltration to destroy their cultures, to destroy their way of life. So security has always been very important in the African culture.
I will pose another question.
Yeah.
What did the ancestors or your transition loved one teach you about freedom?
Well, like I said again, everything in Africa, everything is based on culture. The way freedom might mean in African culture might be different in the European culture, because as far as the African are concerned, your freedom has to go in hand with the cultural belief and the cultural paradigm. In other words, your freedom does not give you the power to disrespect other people or to take disrespect your elders. Your freedom is measured in terms of respectability. That we talk about respect, how you respect other people. So there are certain type of limitation to that. You know, your freedom have to be measured by your religious belief, by your cultural beliefs, and it's also limited by that.
What did the ancestors or transition loved one teach you about justice?
Everything in Africa go by certain rules. For example, the justice between husband and wife, it goes with certain rules. In certain African cultures, it's not easy to, for example, to get divorces over there, because the societies are in control of everything between husband and wife. If you do certain things against your wife, for example, that's wrong, the whole village will come together to make sure you understand where you went wrong and how that's supposed to be reconciled based on the traditional and the cultural belief in certain areas in Africa. So there's justice for the wife in the relationship, and there's justice for younger people when it comes to, for older people when it comes to their place in society. So everybody have to function and they know their limitations.
What did your ancestors or a transition loved one teach you about education?
Very good. If you, like I said to you before, that the first 3 universities in the world was in Africa. I told you about the University of Egypt, the University of Morocco, and the University of Timbuktu, which is in my area, the Mandingo area. Education was very, very important and emphasized at a very young age. It was the how do I call it? The roadmap how to function in society, the roadmap how to live life, the roadmap have to relate with other people that are not in tune with your culture. So education was very emphasized, it was very important in African culture.
What did the ancestors teach you about health? How to maintain your health?
Okay. In the African culture, prevention was very important because we believe that prevention is better than cure. So the Africans have different kind of way of taking care of that. They believe in the herbs. Before the arrival of the Europeans, certain herbs were used to prevent certain diseases. And the way the nutritions were taken care of, it was all measured in terms of health. For example, there are certain type of medicines in Africa from the leaves, they're very bitter. You know, you might not like it, but they are very good for your health and they were encouraged. So health is part of the African lifestyle, very important.
Okay, if I had to iterate about health, now, us as a nation of people, we have certain diseases that are very common to us as a nation of people.
Right.
Now, one, for example, is high blood pressure. Is there any herbs that you know of that the ancestors or a transition loved one told you about treating such diseases as high blood pressure or even diabetes?
Well, I remember specifically my grandmother telling me that certain leaves that are very bitter, when things are bitter, you might not like it, they're very good for your health. And they used to mix, I don't know specifically the medication because it's been a long time ago, but certain leaves they used to put in water and soak it up and give it us to us on a daily basis to drink them. And I will believe that those herbs were there for preventive medicines to, you know, maybe take care of those potential health impediments that are destroying most people today who have deviated from the African way of life and they are grabbing these Western type of medicines that have a bunch of chemicals in them. But leaves were there for that reason.
What did the ancestors teach you about, or a transition loved one teach you about religion?
Well, you know, if I have to be very careful when it comes to religion because, you know, religion, especially Islam and Christianity, are probably maybe 600 or 700 years old in Africa. And most people try to misconstrue religion and Christianity, and spirituality. Okay? Spirituality is, in my belief, is how you relate with your innermost, how you relate with what you call God. You know, that's spirituality. And religion is something that's very organized. You have to play by certain rules. But I will say this, the African people are very spiritual people. So I will not sum this up with religion because, like I would say, Islam, Christianity, these are all foreign religion in Africa. But African people always believe in spirituality. And they express this through music, sometimes dancing, and they express this through so many other ways. So the African people are spiritual people, I would say, by nature. Religion is something new. This is like 500 or 600 years old in Africa. Islam and Christianity, you know, this can be debatable, but factually, the African people are spiritual people. I'll put it that way.
What did the ancestors or transition loved one teach you about politics?
Way before the arrival of the Europeans or the Arabs in Africa, we have politics already in existence. Mostly politics was formulated by warriors, people that conquered and bring people together And most of these people have their own instinct and ingenuity as far as politics is concerned. For example, we have people like Soumaoro Kante in the Mali Empire. We have Mansa Musa, and we have Soumdiata Keita. Now, I will narrate certain things that I was told somewhere about Soumdiata Keita, who brought such a political success in Africa. Everything in society was going smoothly and everything was functioning progressively. And in one of the after meetings, this man started crying. And he was said, "Why are you crying for? Everything is going smoothly in your country, you crying." He said, "I'm crying not because of what we have right now, but because what might happen in the future in politics in our society. There will be a time when people don't care about the function of society, where people are going to become so selfish. They will use politics to enrich themselves. They will use politics to where corruption is going to overtake the real essence of leadership." That's what I'm crying for. So these people, they were not politicians as we translate it today. They are people who were really social engineers who care about the society.
Yes.
So politics, in a sense, was in Africa from that perspective. But today, politics is corrupted because it has been infiltrated with this European greed and material, how would I say, greed. Before, politics was for true leadership in Africa, for the people and of the people.
Okay. What did your ancestors or a transition loved one teach you about truth?
Truth in Africa is something that the African look at it from this perspective. The truth is always accurate. It was designed to make sure the Africans go into the directions that is going to benefit them. But unfortunately, there's a dysfunction today because the truth does not exist anymore, because the African's mind is polluted by foreign interference. And because of that, today, everything is dysfunctional in African society. But when the Africans used to play by the truth, everything used to go accurately, and everything used to function. So that tells me that the truth is always accurate. But when people deviate from the truth, all type of dysfunctions happens in society.
What did the ancestors or a transition loved one teach you about entertainment or talent?
Very good. In fact, I talk about spirituality. The African people look at everything from the point of view of spirituality. If you go to African villages, say in places like the Ivory Coast, maybe Sierra Leone, there's always music. The drum used to be there as a form of communication. When there's a drum beat, sometimes the drum will tell you somebody just passed away. The sound of the drums might tell you there's something important happening in society today. So the Africans, by nature, black people by nature, we are people of rhythm. Everything we do come with rhythm, certain kind of rhythm. So we entertain in every form, through not only through music, but even the way we communicate, the way we do certain things, the way we dance, everything resonates certain type of spiritual message. Our music was not just noise, just waste, not as salacious as some of the people are making music today. Music was a form of communication. Music was a form of sending messages like in a form of entertainment. Because even a great teacher can really get their message across when they are entertaining. A great storyteller is someone that's very entertaining. Most of the great speeches, most of the most effective communicators in modern time were people that were very entertaining in their way of delivery, like Dr. King, for example. Today, Farrakhan, he knows how to entertain his audience. And in a sense, because of that, he knows how to relate to the people, he knows how to convey a message. So entertainment, in that sense, was very vital in the function of delivery in African society.
What did the ancestors or transition loved one teach you about economics or money?
Well, money, as we see it today, is something very foreign to the African culture. There was something we call the barter system. Barter system means everybody in their circle or in their group creates something for society. Some people were shoemakers, some people were farmers. Everybody creates something, and we should exchange through the barter system. You know, there was nothing like money. Money is something foreign to us. Money is something that is materialistic more. It brings the material sense in the mind of the people. We were socialists, I would say, in Africa. Everybody creates something, every family was good for something, and we bring it together. In those days, we exchange. And in those days, there was happiness. There was nothing like greed. Everybody was eager to produce more, to satisfy, to contribute to the function of society. Today, because of money, as we know it today, we're having all these problems. So this is something that the European brought to us. So that's the way we look at money. Yeah.
What did the ancestors or transition loved one teach you about labor or working?
Great. Labor in Africa was done by the community. It is not like today everybody go and do their job. No. In fact, this is the reason why I have to, take this subject to polygamy. People were marrying more wives, producing more children. It means it's going to give the family more force to produce. And people used to come together, go to their farm, grow their own food together. So labor was something that was very encouraged in the African culture because the Africans were very independent people. The Africans don't believe in begging. The Africans don't believe in depending on others. They believe in using their ingenuity and their strength to produce for self. This is the reason why you don't seem to see homeless people in Africa. You don't seem to see beggars. I'm talking about before the arrival of the Europeans in Africa. There's not something like that. Homelessness, beggars, destitute. No. Because every family used to come together to produce for the livelihood of the family. So yes, labor is very, very important based on the African culture. I don't know about now, because right now there's a lot of deterioration and dysfunction. Everybody wants to work in the office nowadays. Instead of going to the villages and produce. This is the reason why there's hunger in Africa today. This is the reason why there's starvation in Africa today. That is not supposed to happen in Africa if Africans can go back to the old ways of doing things.
What did the ancestors teach you about sex and gender?
In Africa, morality was very emphasized in Africa. Therefore, everybody was trained to understand their position in society. The women were very good at womanhood. The men were very good at being men. They know their responsibility. And because of this, the dysfunctions we are seeing today because of Western influence was not happening. Men knows what to do as a man, how to take care of their family, how to be there with their wives and create. Women also knows how to make sure life is comfortable for their men. All of this dysfunction that we're seeing today happening in the diaspora, like in Europe and in America, It's because the Africans are deviating from their African culture and African paradigm. This is the reason why today the divorce rate among Africans in the diaspora is higher than the divorce rate among Africans back home in Africa. Why? Because there's a roadmap that the Africans function by, which is respect for one another, which is the principle of relationship. All these salacious deviations is because the Africans are emulating the Europeans. That where sex is some form of joke, where sex is commercialized, where sex is rampant, is all over the place. In Africa, sex is a sacred thing between husband and wife. It is not, it's not the detriment that is happening today to the African world. So yes, sex is a great thing in Africa, but it's between married people. It's something that's very sacred.
Thank you. What did the ancestors or a transition loved one teach you about law?
In Africa, most of the things today are not on paper. It's verbal and it's understood in the African culture. But you have to remember, when the Europeans came and the Arabs came to Africa, they destroyed most of our libraries. They destroyed most of our documents. So I will not be able to direct you or pinpoint a specific area where there are laws written down.
If I had to really say and expound on the definition of law, it's the system of rules which a particular country or county or community recognizes as regulating the actions of its members and which it may enforce by the imposition of penalties.
Okay. The reason why I'm not trying to circumvallate or beat around the bush, the reason why I'm going that way is because you have to understand there's dysfunction right now and pollution in the African culture. But if you want to understand that better, you have to go to the African villages, not by the so-called educated people who are coming with all of this rubbish and all of this detriment from Europe and from America and infiltrating and polluting the African way of life. But if you go to the villages, there's a set of rules that people function by. Marriages, husband and wife, between children and their parents, between the younger ones and the elders. There are laws there that we play by. And those laws hold us together as a human being. But it's like now, because of the rampant of deviation, we are like becoming more animalistic than becoming human to be. But based on this village rules or village laws or the traditional laws, the brothers in the family, the younger ones, know how to respect their elders. Before they do anything, they have to go through the elders based on the tradition of a particular vicinity or particular society in Africa and function in those areas. Husband and wife, everybody knows their positions, how to function based on the African rules of law, and the chiefs that run the villages, they are the presiders. When things go wrong, everybody come, and these people make decisions or adjudications based on those set of rules that are in a particular village. But there's not anything unitarily for the whole of Africa. It varies based on the culture and the tradition of a particular vicinity or particular villages in Africa. So I cannot speak for the whole of Africa, but as you go into Africa, you're going to see in different villages that things are wrong by their own paradigm and their own system.
This is going to be the last question from Mr. Jabi, and it's going to say, what did the ancestors teach you or a transition loved one taught you about unity and family?
Unity and family is very important in the African culture. In fact, based on how Africa is right now, the Africans will not be able to make it without unity and family. And I told you, if you go to Africa, it's very difficult or very hardly for you to see homelessness or homeless people. Because of the philosophy of unity, because of the philosophy of family, in spite of the fact that the Africans currently are below when it comes to material stuff, because of the mentality or the philosophy of unity and family, you don't see so many people sleeping on the street like you can see in America or in Europe. Those things does not exist in Africa. For people to sleep in the street, in most cases, these are people that have a mental problem. But to see somebody, a sane person, sleeping and languish in the street like we see in America, in Europe, does not exist in the African culture. And this is because, not because they have a lot, but because they have a sense of unity and a sense of family. So, sense of unity and sense of family is always emphasized from the elders to the younger ones. This is something that my mother used to preach all the time, and this is something that mothers and fathers preach to their families all the time, that they should always make room for unity, for family, for togetherness. So that's very important in African culture.
Okay, we thank you, my brother, my friend, Jabi Mamadou.
Yeah.
This is the ending of the recording.
Thank you very much for the interview.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time. You
Thank
are an honored guest.
Thank you very much.